6:01. Let's go ahead and call to order the Burien Airport Committee meeting for March 18th, 2025. Nate, would you call the roll, please?
Yeah. Chair Moore,
Present.
Brian Davis,
Present.
Dana Carmichael,
Present.
Karen Gloria.
Present.
And also in the room with us, City Manager Viola and our City Attorney, Jason. And our actually former, soon-to-be new.
My introduction is getting complicated.
Yeah, Harbaugh.
Our very own 47, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
45,
Yeah,
now
right,
47,
that's it,
right?
that's it. Okay, let's
Getting those tattoos. I hope I don't get driven to that by this job.
oh, minutes of the January 21st BAC meeting. I'll entertain a motion for approval if there is one to be had.
I move to approve.
So moved. Do we have a second?
There. I can second.
Deputy Mayor Moore seconds. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor of approving the January 21st minutes, signify by saying aye, raising your hand.
Aye. Did we miss
Three in
February?
favor. Or we had no quorum in February. Yeah, so 3 in favor with,
So it's
Council.
January minutes?
those were the January.
Oh, I'm sorry.
minutes. Okay. So
Also, everybody in favor.
great. Okay, well then. It's unanimous 4-0 and those minutes are approved. On to the business agenda. Nate, I'm going to give this to you for a second, just to kind of update us on where we are. We've got some new folks coming in.
Yes, 2 weeks ago, I think, at the council meeting, the council voted to approve Jeff as well as Luis and Alejandra, I think, are their names. They were invited tonight. I haven't seen, they did accept the calendar invite, so maybe they're planning to start next month when their term begins. Brian and Karen are up on Monday with council to complete their interviews, so that will put us at, assuming their appointment will put us at 6 out of the 7 spaces that we now have. So if we come across any other interested
So we have still one empty space.
We have 1 vacancy.
I think we could work with the council or the clerk's office to, if we find an interested person, to do that. I was gonna quickly touch on, and I'll do it again next month. There's some stuff for Jeff and the newest members, well, and everybody, to redo your OPMA training, and review the handbook and whatnot. I think the clerk sent it out a week or so ago. I'll send it to everyone once we're kind of complete, so it's not piecemealing emails throughout the group. But
Thanks, I'm really looking forward to it.
but yeah, that's kind of where we stand with all that. I don't have any other thing unless there's questions, but being that nobody's super new here, I think we're good. Oh, and
Well, yeah.
I think the committee will entertain it. A thank you to Dana
Yes, indeed.
at this
Yeah.
time.
This is Dr. Carmichael's final meeting with us. She is cycling off. And I'm gonna tell a story from that walk that we took, way back when, through the neighborhood. And we were both so new, and we were both kind of in that what are we doing here zone, and I remember saying to you, don't leave before the miracle happens. But I feel like the miracle happened, and what we've been able to accomplish over these last couple of years, and we've got a long way to go, but at least we've got some momentum and an idea of purpose and building relationships, and we'd never got there if it hadn't been for you. I mean, there were a couple of times. I know you've been limited in terms of your ability to contribute while you were teaching, during the school year, but there were a couple of times you contributed things that kind of, I think, made all of us kind of go, oh yeah, and kind of moved us in a certain direction. And your faithfulness, and just in terms of your attendance, allowed us to get stuff done. and I'm very, very grateful, and I would, yeah, yes, indeed. Deputy Mayor.
I just want to say, I think your students must be so proud of you. And I don't know if they always say it. Sometimes high school students forget to say things and then they'll write you years later. But you're demonstrating the principles that you teach them, you're living them. And they must know that. I know that.
I think they do know that. I want to say, I think this is really important work. It makes me sad to, that I wasn't able to make all the deadlines and do everything. I would entertain if you ever decided, to have an alternate. But during Q3, it's just almost impossible, for me, because I'm also a ski instructor, which means every Sunday I'm in the mountains skiing, teaching 10-year-olds how to do moguls and whatnot. So I have such little
Is that
free
limited to
time.
10-year-olds? Can you?
I mean, I love skiing. I grew up skiing. I finished high school in Austria. I went to college in Colorado. It's a huge part of who I am, and it's, for me, the best part about living in the Pacific Northwest. But serving on this committee has been really important to me. It makes me sad. I've really enjoyed working with all of you. And I would have looked forward to working with you. Absolutely. If you need somebody until you get somebody to make quorum, I can do that. If you take me as an alternate, I can do that. But Q3 is gonna come around. And that,
And Q3, what is that, November, December?
no, Q3 starts January, the end of
okay.
January, and it goes until April.
Oh, I see. So you're in Q3
I'm
right
in
now.
Q3 right now. So it's really a hard time. It's ski season, plus it's a big time. So I just wasn't able to get the paperwork done. And then I got sick and I thought,
That was your sign.
that was my
Yeah,
sign.
That was your sign.
But I, as a Burien citizen, I'm so very proud of this work, and you can count on me to be an advocate and a partner for the summer work or whatever.
Mhm.
So thank you all for trusting me with the work. I'm happy to serve this last meeting formally. A little sad, to be honest.
Just, I want to make sure of something. So is the open slot literally Dr. Carmichael's slot?
Not technically, it's one of the new positions, I think, but there is an open slot. This again, I don't think nobody's from like a particular district. I don't think
Okay.
they just.
Because just so that you, for your own benefit, until you're actually replaced, you actually still are a member of the, according to the code.
Really?
So, yes, so if
That's-
you are unable to attend in April or whatever that is, that's not actually an issue, because as long as you have a quorum, we can go forward, and then after April, if that works for you, it continues to work for us.
And it'll be easier for us to reach a quorum with the extra people.
And if we needed a quorum, we could get her up
That's
there
right.
and she can be the quorum. Even if she was,
I am an on-time, under budget gal, so I would never miss a meeting.
We can discuss that as we go. But
Yeah.
Dana, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Really
my
appreciate it.
pleasure. Thank you.
And we're trying so hard to keep you so.
And before we move on, new member?
Yes.
Real quick, if you don't mind, we're on this, as long as we're on this item, if you wouldn't mind just introducing yourself and it's the incoming welcome and.
Great. Louis Tracy, been member, like resident, I guess, of Burien since 2023. So been here about 2 years at this point. Was looking forward to having a chance to, I kind of live above the flight line. So this was something very present from the moment I moved here, and was looking forward to some opportunity to share, kind of help push things forward and get a better representation for the community.
Nice.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, welcome in. As I shared with these guys before you came in, this is the end of my first term. And I'm Brian, by the way, and this is the end of my first term, and it took me a year before I began to feel comfortable about, well, what am I doing here? And so just let it come to you. Don't, ask questions
And for everyone's benefit, primarily your benefit, maybe everyone should introduce themselves just so that, no?
I'd be helpful, but.
Yeah.
Feel like that's
Yeah.
here.
I'm Sarah Moore. I'm there's a council member quota or something on this, in this group. I'm the council member. I was there for your interview, deputy mayor. I was acting mayor that day, and if I seemed really nervous, that might have been why, but I was trying to put you at ease. And hopefully, maybe we can get little stand-up signs for the next few sessions, so we can all just kind of, so many new people see each other's names.
I'm Jeff Harbaugh. I've been in Burien 9 years. This will be my third time on the Burien Airport Committee. And I'm the START representative, or one of the two START representatives for the city. So I've been into this way longer than anybody should.
I'm Nate Hawthorne. I'm the staff liaison. I work in the legal department of the city. I also live in Burien. Grew up in the area, so been around a bit. And yeah, been doing this for 4 years, I think. 4 out of the 5 years I've been with the city, so slowly becoming the most tenured person that sits in the room. Not knowing Jeff's still here. Jeff is back, so.
He thought he was just gonna come for one meeting and you see how that's worked out. Carmen Newsman, second city attorney, and I was present at the interview as well. And I, along with Adolfo, we are ex officio members, so we don't actually vote, but we try to help either share information or help move things along when necessary.
I'm Brian Davis. I'm the vice chair and sort of by arrangement presiding officer on meeting nights. I live over in Seahurst. I was raised in the transportation business, spent part of my life covering government politics in my career as a reporter. And this is just, it's community service that means a great deal to me. And, we're delighted you're here because we have come a long way these last 2 years and we have far to go. So, so welcome.
Thank you.
I'm Karen Valoria, and this is my third term. I just realized today that is my third term, and it does take a long time to catch on to everything. I'm also a member with Jeff on the START committee, and START stands for Sea-Tac Airport Roundtable or something like that. Anyway, you'll be hearing those kind of acronyms the whole time, and just ask us because that's the way we talk. Welcome.
No, I've been in government, the military, and Amazon,
Okay.
all organizations that only speak in acronyms. So I feel very comfortable there.
Good.
What was your name again? Louis. I'm Dana Carmichael. I'm a teacher at Raisbeck Aviation High School. I've lived in Burien since 2020 and I teach government. And so this is sort of a walking the talk thing. I missed the deadline to re-up. I was telling folks during the school year, it's very hard for me, but I'm very passionate about this work. And so I think I'm cycling off.
We don't have a hard time leaving this.
As
But
needed.
this is a great group. I have to say, it's been really, and it's a fun group. So welcome.
I'm Adolfo Bailon, city manager, and I try to do what I can to support the group and its mission.
Thank you.
It's like Hotel California. You can check in anytime you like, but you can never. Okay, well, welcome again. Recap of our presentation to the Des Moines City Council on creating the airport committee.
Well, I went, Dana was in the midst of you were ill or something like that.
I think I was really ill.
Yeah, you were really ill. But I knew it was going to be just a short and sweet kind of thing, so I went to the Des Moines City Council. There must have been a hot topic on the agenda, cause it was jam-packed, standing room only. And, so Mayor Buxton, was kind enough to let the public comment go first, so we were able to speak. I had my 5 minutes, and I knew it was just logistic things that they needed, like, how many people are in our committee, um, you know, and so I told them all that. I told them how I would suggest more than 5 because we were having trouble reaching a quorum and stuff. I did also let them know that, as the airport committee, we need to, they should work more closely with the council. So it was just a really quick 5 minutes. I made it under time because one of the other presenters went over time and they had a right in their face, and I'm thinking, okay, I'm glad that didn't happen to me.
That's funny. That-
Yeah,
As a postscript to that, I do understand that they did approve
yeah, I was
The
wondering what they
formation
were doing.
of an
that
airport
was
committee,
really-
but they did not, because there was, and I don't remember what it was, but there was something hot on the agenda that night, and that wound up taking most of their time.
Oh,
So-
yeah, there was
So
something.
the formation of the airport committee came very late in the meeting, and they were
Mhm.
ready to get out of there. And I actually think they have like a drop dead time that their meetings need to conclude. And so they were right up against that. And so they formed the committee, but they didn't do anything else with it.
Mhm.
So we may yet get the chance to help
Okay.
them kind of navigate that. So
And
thank you.
I'm still very surprised that not all the neighbor airport cities have airport committees any longer,
Yeah.
so. So I hope they do, I hope they get, you know.
Thank you guys
Yeah.
for doing that, for prepping that. Jen.
I just was moral support, but she's like, I'll go. And I was like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, yeah, she was there. You were there in spirit.
Start day in Olympia. Who wants to begin?
Oh,
You-
start.
Hey.
Um, So how many people in this room went? Yeah. 5 of us. Burien was by far, I think, the best represented
Mhm,
city
Absolutely.
at the start day in Olympia. But there were also representation from Tequila, from Des Moines,
Normandy Park.
Sea-Tac, Normandy Park. I think Des Moines ended up not sending someone. But they were on the agenda to go. And and I have found this with other lobby days as well. The goal was to find something that all of us could agree on and could get together and in talking about. And so that doesn't mean it was core to any one presenter or any one city or any one representative. It was very much led by the port. The issues that we talked about was renewable biofuel, port package, getting the funding for the port package.
New airport.
New airport.
Don't hold.
Ground transportation.
Yeah,
The 5 things on the list that
Yeah.
have come out of the start,
yeah.
which
And-
aren't necessarily the things we will focus on, but that's what the city agreed.
So we spoke to representatives and we also heard from FAA spokespeople talking about their thoughts about the possibility of a new airport, and quite a bit about ground transportation and decarbonizing ground transportation. It was, I think it's always good to get together and to go do this kind of day. It wasn't, like I said, it wasn't necessarily the first set of things we would have brought, but it was something that we could all take turns speaking about.
So transportation, was it just like transportation coming from the airport, like delivery, large 18 wheelers? Or they also talk about transportation as in getting people from Sea-Tac to, I don't know, the Portland airport or things of that
It,
sort.
it was both, and,
Okay.
and it wasn't very, I mean, we were advocating for both, and she was FAA, right? That we spoke to
Oh, yeah. I think so.
was
Was she?
The woman at lunch was washed up.
Washed.
So these are the.
Okay, watch out. And she was very much talking all about, you know, do we have rail? Do we have an air, or, you know, small planes to other airports and get people out of Sea-Tac? So it was kind of spitballing a whole lot of possible ways to decongest the airport.
High-speed rail, regular rail, what?
All,
All, okay.
yeah.
But none in a, we're gonna do this
Right.
sense,
Okay.
all in a,
It was just like all the ideas that, because she had worked at so many different airports.
Yeah.
And I have the list of the priorities, that way we,
yeah, so could
we
you,
had
for
here.
what, when we talked about the ground.
so the
decarbonization?
decarbonizing ground transportation, reducing transportation emissions and electrification. And so it has a bunch of bullet points. I'm sorry, I should have sent this to.
Electrification as in the
The ground-
airplane
ground-
or ground?
Probably
Okay.
has copies on
Yeah.
my computer.
So it was all of that electric, you know, using electric vehicles for the ground transportation along the airport. all
I
those
think
kinds
she
of
was
things.
also thinking about decongesting.
Yeah, and it was interesting, she was saying how we should use Portland more as a hub rather than us, you know, send more to Portland and then have a transportation from Portland to Seattle, like high speed transportation from Portland. So it's all these things that are way far ahead and nothing really that they're working on right now.
Yeah, and I think the ground transportation on this list was more the pitch to the legislators
Right.
to keep the funding going, to get things that will decarbonize or make room
Right.
for electrified taxis, buses, whatnot. Where are they gonna put all the people that sit out on the highway and idle? How are they gonna eliminate that stuff? And that seemed to be funding pitches, if I recall correctly. Then WashDOT's vision was much more of a comprehensive
Right.
future.
Uh-huh,
This is what it could be if everybody could agree on something.
yeah, yeah.
Anybody else?
Yeah, on the one hand, it was good to be there. Even if you don't say anything, it's good to be there. I thought the port managed it as well as they could. We didn't all see all the Congress people. They had an agenda as to who went where and which building you'd be in at what time. And when you got there, you didn't know who you were gonna talk to. Sometimes it was the members, sometimes it was the senior staff. Sometimes sadly, it was a couple of interns who just promised to take a lot of notes, which was the experience we had. As you've heard, we were kind of stuck with those 5 points because that's what START came up with.
Mhm.
And to be fair, limiting flights or anything was never gonna make it on that list for various reasons. And I don't even know if we could expect it to. So I thought it was worthwhile. I have some concern that we look like we're in lockstep with the port, which of course we're not. But that's the price we pay if we're gonna participate in these things, I'm afraid.
I was,
I'm sorry, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
I was also disappointed in the building soundproofing to hear that they had done tests and not found any part packages that were in need of repair. And
Yeah,
and it sounded like they were doing an average decibel volume everywhere in the house, and that you could have a house that had pockets that were above the 60 and still pass the test. So that was and the only criteria was noise. There wasn't a criteria of air quality or.
And the other thing we learned, well, we already knew this, some of you may not know this yet. If you don't pass the noise test and qualify, it doesn't matter if your windows, doors, and insulation are rotting and mildew, you can't get them replaced.
Well, it's
City
just the
manager.
noise, yeah.
Well, no, if you have the noise issue, as I understand it, then in redoing the noise, if there are problems with the wind, if they would redo your house to bring you in compliance, and if your windows are bad, there'd be new windows. But if your windows are bad, but you don't meet the noise standard, nothing happens to the windows.
You're stuck. Just one, Dana, hold on a second.
Just wanted to support something that Jeff had mentioned earlier about the importance of participating and seeing and experiencing. As we have more members attend the lobby day, they have greater insight into how dysfunctional Olympia is when in session. And it's helping us, and it's helped us to get a better understanding of how to be more efficient in addressing legislators. After the meeting where we attended and met with these legislators, some were interns, and Jeff and I attended those, and Deputy Mayor, I think you were in that meeting with us. Well, since then, we've learned this isn't just a lobby day activity for the Burien Airport Committee. This is a full court press all the time, engaging with our legislators, inviting them to come out after the session ends, having meetings with them at the Boulevard Park Library, starting out with the meeting on the outside of the library so they could all hear the impact of the issue, and introducing them over time. And so that's the continuity of the committee is very helpful, because we can then realize, okay, last year we did these members, next year we'll do these. And so it's a long game, and we're chipping away at the issue, but being there and seeing how dysfunctional it is during the session, we gain the valuable knowledge of our work really starts when the session ends, because then we can invite them to come out. We can court them. We can meet with them. We could do everything we need. So it's just, there was value in being there.
Dr. Carmichael.
A question for any of you who went there. So we had talked before about the 509 and the trucks and the exhausts, and then I think of it as a backward letter K, because there's another, I don't know if it's also a 509 that goes from I-5 to Tacoma, also take trucks that way. And then ours takes trucks off of 509 to the port this way. And we know that that's not a priority for the port, because it's off of their land. But if WashDOT was there, did anybody talk about that? Because I really think that there was working with the governor's office, and particularly in light of the article.
That issue is tied to the SAM, to the airport master plan. That issue is not tied to this legislative agenda. That issue is more to the SAM. So that wouldn't come up.
Right. So I just WashDOT, right? That, I don't know. I just think we need to find a way to talk about that.
You will.
We have a plan.
We have a plan.
Excuse me, and forgive me, because I'm not sure if I heard it correctly. Luis or Louis?
Louis.
Okay, Louis, okay. So let's just make sure, because, so SAM, Sustainable
Airport
Airport
master
Master
plan,
Plan.
yes.
And so that is essentially them, the port, in, depending on who describes it, it's either a document that kind of identifies a bunch of separate projects, or it looks like one massive project that's broken down into little small pieces to make it more palatable. But that aside, bunch of projects, I forgot what the count is, it's like 30 something,
31.
different things that they're doing related to the airport in terms of improvement, upgrading, et cetera, et cetera. In addition, you keep hearing about START, and I think it is Stakeholders Advisory Roundtable.
Yes, thank
So,
you.
just so that you know what that is, so obviously not just us, but you have Des Moines and Tukwila, whatever, Sea-Tac, a couple of other places as well. Just so you know who is participating. When we're talking about having, there's more than one quote unquote START meeting. So there's one where you kind of deal with the agenda. Largely, it seems as if the port kind of drives that agenda and, you get to offer up things and they tell you we'll get to it at some point in the future. You need to keep track,
I'm
otherwise
still waiting.
it doesn't come back, or it comes back in a different way where you almost feel like it's not responsive to what you perhaps were thinking of when it was being raised. But just important to know. And if you have questions, let us know, because I'm feeling like a new person who hasn't heard this stuff. I want to at least make sure that it doesn't just sound like we're like trying to talk over or around you on this.
I have a little bit more familiarity with the SAMP. Just because I forget someone posted something about it or somewhere, and then I wanted to understand what goes into it.
So you haven't gotten through all 4,500 pages yet.
It looks like, if I understand
Either.
it correctly, it's a requirement from the FAA that they forecast what demand will look like over the next 10 years. And then they say in 5-year chunks, how they will meet that demand as much, or whether they will gap to it in that demand as
The
much as
master
possible.
plan that is currently under review by the FAA. The port has proposed these projects, and the net result will be in 10 years' time, there will be a 28% increase in takeoffs and landings at the airport. So these projects are laying they're laying the groundwork literally for this increase in traffic at the airport. And we have some serious problems with that, but that we're kind of in that process right now. So
And then does that have like bylaws or something? I could either get sent or something to
Yes,
understand.
It does
How
have
that-
bylaws. And
So there's a representative from the port, Dave Kaplan, who tends to watch all of our meetings.
he's our big brother.
So we can certainly ask him to send us a copy, and it's probably good for everyone to be able to have a copy of what starts, bylaws, et cetera, are. So
Just understanding, like, if we think things should or shouldn't be on the agenda, my assumption is that it's by who's written these bylaws.
anything else on this? If not, because I do want to leave time, especially for Sarah's, the strategic, the work plan, the strategic planning thing.
Okay.
And we have one more thing
Okay.
in between, which is the legislative update. Is there anybody got a whole burner in their pocket on anything else having to do with start date? Okay, we'll move on then to the legislative updates. So we wound up striking out in Olympia this year. There were two bills particularly that we took an active advocate position on Senate Bill 5652, which Senator Orwell proposed to include environmental justice as one of the key criteria for evaluating large projects like what we're seeing under the master plan. The bill died in committee largely because it was introduced too late to give it a proper hearing in both houses of the legislature. That's basically what it comes down to. They couldn't get it through the pipeline in a timely manner before this. There are certain legislative deadlines. You got to have it done by X date, and they couldn't get it done. So that bill died in committee. Worth revisiting next year, in my opinion. But that's where that one wound up. And then there was another piece of legislation that we had discussed here briefly. It was 1303 that would also have required consideration of environmental justice in any project in an airport adjacent city. There was some City of Burien staff had some problems with the bill the way it was initially written. It would have imposed some serious obstacles on would-be developers, particularly in the places where we need development, like Boulevard Park. It would have imposed costs on the city. It was not something that we felt like, as originally written, we did not feel like we could support that bill. Then as that bill moved through the committee process, it was basically stripped down to one thing, which was the state of Washington will include environmental justice as one of the criteria for these sorts of projects going forward. But for whatever reason, and I don't completely understand it, for whatever reason, that bill got hung in the Rules Committee and they couldn't get it out to a floor vote. So this is the second year, I believe, that this type of legislation has been introduced in Olympia. And it's my understanding that the sponsors of that bill will go back next year and try it again. So we'll see where that goes. In the end, when it was stripped down to just that one thing, I'm like, I can get behind that, and I actually did write to some legislators about trying to advance it, but that wasn't going to happen. I did think that, and I went to testify in Olympia on 5652. I did think it was interesting. We had elected officials from 3 of our airport adjacent committees. Deputy Mayor Moore testified, Mayor Buxton from Des Moines, and City Council Member Neguse from Sea-Tac all testified on behalf and in favor of 5652. John Flanagan of the Port of Seattle, Alaska Airlines, and several other spokespeople for other business associations spoke in opposition to the bill.
As did the airlines.
Yeah.
And their opposition was all based on cost.
All based on cost. There was in the time that I was in that room, nobody who spoke in opposition addressed the environmental issues that were at the heart of the bill. So that was troubling to me, frankly. But that's kind of where we are. We have to find a way. We have to find a way through that. And but it was useful to understand that.
Just a suggestion, yes, the bills failed, it's unfortunate. But we have a target list of legislators. And we can start now as a committee to say, how do we make inroads with every legislator, either on the committees, or folks that sponsored or co-sponsored bills that failed this year. We could start with that list, target those members, target the committees where the bills died, as opposed to just randomly, so we could message our legislators, but if they're not on the committee.
Right.
So if we start with the committee where the sausage is made, and then make sure that it gets out, and use what the legislators do. They seek co-sponsors for their bills when they know their bills are going to be in a committee, because those co-sponsors are automatic 7 or 8 votes to get the bill out of the committee and onto the floor or to the next committee. So we could do the same thing, start targeting those meetings in Boulevard Park. We can invite mayors from the other cities to say, hey, we're meeting with this legislator. It's great if you came too. Met with a council member of Kenmore at the last AWC event and said, we're also suffering with airport noise issues. Invite Kenmore to come out. And so now it's not just 33rd and the 34th or the 11th adjacent to us, but it's also now Kenmore further up north, and it becomes a bigger issue.
It's huge. That's huge. Thank you. But one other thing, before we move on to the work plan, all of a sudden we are in incredibly different times. Let's start at the federal level. The Trump administration has done away with the environmental justice arm of the Environmental Protection Agency. And I think it would be safe to say, these port packages that we've been trying to get funded for the last however long, the money was going to be federal money. Most of it was going to be federal money. I think it's safe to say that we will never see $1 of federal funding for this program.
For 4 years.
At least in the foreseeable future. So that is one thing. We thought last year that we had $10 million for port packages for repair and replacement out of the state legislature. Most of that was stripped out in session last year. There was $1 million left, and they're going to take that because Governor Ferguson has said we got to cut $4 billion out of the state budget. So getting funding for any of this stuff we're back to square one, but that's actually not a bad thing. Now we get a chance to be creative and figure out how we're going to approach this. But just like that, the landscape has, in the time that we've sat on this committee, this landscape has changed radically. But the one thing for me that has not changed is my desire to figure out ways to deliver tangible benefits, especially to the people that live under the flight path. And I'm not going to give up on that. And I don't think anybody in this room is going to give up on that. But what the city manager is talking about, getting boots on the ground and doing that hard work, you know, getting in front of people and having these conversations to make people aware, that is more important than it's ever been. And going forward, it will be just so.
Great segue for.
Yeah.
The work plan.
Exactly. So I'm done. So. Madam Chair,
Yeah, is that the work plan?
that was the old one.
This is
Way
the-
too-
okay.
This is the last one that was actually voted on and approved
Yeah,
by the committee. I don't believe we had one, an
We
official one
haven't
for
had one
last year.
since.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's, I think we need one. I think that we've changed a lot in the last couple of years. And I think that a work plan would have been difficult during all of that change because it was happening so fast and
Yeah.
you couldn't adhere to an existing work plan and kind of manage the amount of change that the committee has had. But I think when I look at the history of relationships with cities and the airport, something that I see really clearly is that the airport has a very long institutional memory with a lot of people in it that have a really long knowledge. And we have some amazing people with long knowledge, but we don't have a handoff process of keeping this committee, you know, up to date and caught up and caught backward, whatever you know, when we hear J.C. Harris, who is from Des Moines and has an incredible history of the airport, it's like we're all hearing it for the first time over and over again. So I think that having a work plan will help us to incorporate new people better, have the new people come up to speed better, have us all on the same page for goals, more of our meeting time spent completing the things on the work plan and less of the time spent finding our footing. So with that being said, I don't have a work plan. I wanted to bring it up as something we need, not as something
And I don't even think this format works anymore. You know, I think we should just start from scratch.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Do you mean format or the content in the?
format and content.
I hate throwing things out.
No, we could just start something else.
Is this your plan, sir? Is
What's that?
this your plan?
No, but
Yeah, so, for those that weren't on the committee at the time, well, one, I put this in there so we could see
Right.
what was previously there. What I think we did over the course of a couple meetings, it's been a couple years now, was we had some other format that was similar and we plugged in new goals. And Jeff, you may have been on the committee at the time, and Karen, I recall we plugged in different things based on the 5 or 6 key topics the committee wanted to focus on, like sustainable aviation fuel, the SAM. And came up with like, what are some reasonable objectives that we thought we could achieve in 2 to 4 years. And then prioritize them and people sort of were assigned to it, though I don't know that anything ever came of people being assigned to it because there was never a follow-up
Right.
project to go with it. But that's sort of where this format came from. I'm happy to recreate something, but I did want everybody to be able to see this, and kind of consider what we had
We did that. We did a lot.
thought about before.
Yeah, we did.
And
Put a few things on there.
it may be worth considering too that we have new members starting their terms next month.
Uh-huh.
So while not to stop you guys from doing anything tonight, maybe there's a couple different priorities next month that come up.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Right, as the committee considers how to move forward, it may be helpful to share with you all something I share with staff. Over the last 2 years, we've really focused on using, at least for me, using the visual of it. Carmen is poking at me because I use this food reference, but that we sometimes have a piece of bread and you put a pat of butter on it. And if you spread your pat of butter over too much bread, you're not going to taste the butter. You're ineffective. You're essentially spreading yourselves out too thin. And what we've tried to really focus on over the last 2.5 years over my time with the city is how do we take the 10 things we're doing and doing it 40% and not making anybody happy and cutting them back to maybe 3 things and we are 80% successful. So just advise the committee that as it's whittling away at its work plan to consider, are we tackling too much? Or should we maybe be 80% effective at 3 things? And as we're knocking those out, maybe adding one more and one more over time, as opposed to these 10 things sound amazing. We're assigning 2 things to each person. It's too much work for a person or 2 people. So
Dr. Carmichael.
I know it's my last day, but I would strongly recommend that you remove the sustainable aviation fuel, or at least it can be a footnote for something else. Because I know why I wanted it on there. At that time, I was heavily involved in a project and I was understanding it and was just deeply concerned that there's a misunderstanding out there that somehow SAFs are less of a polluter than aviation fuel, and that's just not true. What it does is it helps buy time for the technological. It's kind of like we have unleaded fuel and then diesel, and they bought time until we could create electric vehicles.
I keep talking. You keep talking. There's something I want to get from Karen.
So staff is like the stopgap until we can tell the technology community can figure out how to make greener things in the sky. But it doesn't need to be on our plate. I just didn't want it to end up in our backyard, and it hasn't. So it can be removed.
I can just tell by looking, some of this is already removable. Health equity zones is a thing. It's been looked into.
Yeah,
It's
nothing
still
really
hanging out there.
Yeah.
And we explored grants. We did that. I mean, I think we can put some tick marks
Yeah.
on. I'm a box checker. And show like we've done some of these things. So I love what you're saying, but to me, it's tidier if we say, yep, we did that. We looked at that. Now we can move on, or we did that. There needs to be a phase 2.
If you're gonna do the box checking, you may then want to give an update to the council so that they can.
They love box
Benefit.
checks.
Well, yeah, because
Like-
we've done a lot of things that are on here.
Important for the council to know what you've done.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, well, and I
Because
think.
there are some things that we
I know, we
have
had so
done,
much
or
fun at
they're-
the block party.
they're moving on, we're still talking about it. It's just getting more firm in what we're doing.
Actually have the same favorite color. We have to coordinate, not
Okay,
not always.
whatever it takes.
So just background, we had an older version of this. And the last time we kind of went through, and not me personally, but the group went through and we kind of talked about which things you felt were either satisfied or
I've not-
resolved, as well as what things to add. So that's how we got here. I'm not saying you need to keep it. I'm just
Oh,
saying
I see.
so that you can, Louis, partially for your benefit, but as a reminder to
See
everyone
what we
else.
did.
This is a continuation of some work that had begun a while ago.
And there are things on here, I think this was brought up today at our all staff meeting that I think in the next year or so, the planning or the community development is going to look at changes to the industrial zones and stuff like that. I don't know how the committee could factor into that or what they have in mind, but it's on their agenda. So some of these things could still be items
Yeah.
if it's of important to the.
You just inspired me. You know what this needs? Timeline. Well, I know, I'm all about that, but they took my marker, so they don't want me writing on it anymore. No, a time, like, this is, for example, the Boulevard block, that's a timeline, that's like, we know when it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in the summer, and we did it this last time, and we had some success. The, Olympia Day had success, and then it's gonna
It's gonna come
reappear,
again, yeah.
right? And so then what you're talking about, that might not be, that might be 2 years out. So it's the way my brain works in terms of understanding like short term, mid-range, long term, and then what's just in the past.
Bring back in May or June.
Does that make sense? And that's a
It
great
does.
thing you
It
showed
totally
it,
makes
and then
sense.
color coded.
So
With the recurring, we've got the.
Yes,
I
yes,
think,
that,
I think, one of the things, whatever we do needs to pass the meaningful test. It's got, whatever we do, whatever priorities we set need to be meaningful to this city and its people who pay a disproportionate price for the growth at that airport that fuels the entire economy of the Puget Sound region. And one of the problems that I had, and I made this clear in January, I don't need to say any more than that, but one of the problems that I had with the START legislative agenda is that it did not, there was a lot of pie in the sky stuff, and most of it did not address our needs as a municipality and did not address the needs of our people, the port package program, okay, well, we've seen where that went, which is basically nowhere. We're back to square one,
Yeah.
and then whether it is finding some way to address health issues that occur because we're living under the flight path and we're looking at 1,200 flights a day, or 600 inbound. Or whether it's finding a way to make the city whole for lost property values and property tax revenues. Whatever we do, as I said, should be meaningful and tangible to the city.
Right.
And I just don't, at this point, after having sat on this committee for 2 years, I don't have any interest in sustainable aviation fuel. That doesn't do anything for me now. And that's basically where I'm coming. This is crude, but what have you done for me lately? And some of this, the second airport, great. Let somebody else worry about the second airport. But that deliberation, I'll be dead by the time that airport opens. I have no interest in being part of that process. Let somebody else carry that freight. Let's do for our people here. Deanna.
with my deepest respect, it's an and both. Some of those things matter, but they are not in the target zone. Right? They are important with their important partners. It's important to have an awareness level. We're not gonna perseverate on it. We're not gonna hyper focus, but they shouldn't be knocked off. I think it's not an either or. I think, is it meaningful to show up at Boulevard Parkway? Maybe not, but it's a step in the right direction towards creating community around it.
Absolutely.
So I don't hold the same litmus test. I'm not on the committee, but I don't hold the same litmus test. I think it's an and both.
Next. Oh, no.
No, I'm
No,
getting my
you're
piece out because I want to say that.
And actually, one of the things that we need to do better is we need to engage with the community more effectively.
Absolutely.
Now there are some reasons that are far out of our control in terms of our ability to do that, but we can't stop trying. So.
And I'm gonna have a piece of new business about that.
Oh, sure. Okay.
We'll bring up it.
Is
Not today.
Just whenever we're at new business.
there anything actionable that we want to
That
take
was
out of
gonna
this?
be my question is what process do we want to kind of review and
I think we need to recognize that we are limited in resources and time to address this. We can't do everything. I think we also, and as people have said, some of these issues are pretty much out of our control. I think if we could agree on what it is we're trying to, what the goals are, I think Brian started to say what those goals are. He talked about who are the people who are most impacted and how can we help them. Now, if we make that list, then I'm pretty sure we know where we were gonna focus. And it would be on the SAMP and the result. It'd be maybe measuring the financial cost to the cities. Certainly some, now that we know how things work a little better, at least I do, some further cooperation, working with other cities on legislation and so forth. Maybe there's one or two more things, and that's as many things as I want on the list. But I'm always sitting here and I'm always saying, and I say it in Start all the time, I'm here because I'm worried about the people who live in Burien who either have to stop talking or who have to clean the rot off their furniture every 2 months outside, or who are having health problems. How do we help those people? And that's what I think we're supposed to be doing. And there's anything else that doesn't contribute to those and doesn't give us a way to do it in a, let's say, short to medium, because nothing's happened short term, I've now learned, is probably shouldn't be something that's taking away. We don't want anything that's taking away attention from those things. I mean, I kind of like the SAS idea, SAF, the SAF thing, but I know it's not going to matter for many years, if at all. In fact, when you burn that fuel, it doesn't give off any less carbon.
Gives us more.
Yeah, I know. But in the process of making it, apparently it's more climate friendly. I don't know. So all I'm saying is focus. What are the things the people in Burien need, and how can we get to those and do something and know what we have to do? I spent a couple of terms on the airport committee where just really smart people with a lot of really good information were running around being angry but not accomplishing anything. I don't want to be part of that group again.
Amen. Anything else on this? Or can we just leave that hang until the new group?
Yeah, I think
Starts?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
we
I
have to
wanted to,
wait.
I wanted to open up the conversation,
Mhm.
not leave with a solution today.
Anything else here? You said you had a piece of new business?
Yeah, I had new business, that we heard from, Mayor Aragon, Sophia Aragon, I guess, who has an opportunity to distribute air purifiers and wanted to know whether the, airport committee could be involved in how those would get out to community members.
Distribute them to who?
I don't know that it's for the airport committee to actually,
Decide.
I think the airport committee could certainly put together the program or suggest the program that we could refer, or the airport committee could refer to council, get council approval, which I have to imagine in some fashion or form is likely. And then we could work out administratively how to distribute those things to folks that need them. So I think it could be done, but again, this is an advisory body, so it gets to advise the council.
Is there a timeline? I didn't see a timeline on that email.
Timeline.
Is she talking about distributing them in Burien?
How many?
It didn't even say. We both got the same email.
Yeah, I didn't get a lot of detail from it, and I have one concern, which is I use that brand of air filter and they have expensive replacement parts. So I have a couple of questions before wholeheartedly being excited about it, but I think it's something I wanted to bring up is do we want to follow up on this?
She's looking for volunteers to help with another group.
I can get more
I
details. Yeah.
think we should get more details.
Feels like
What
a
questions
comeback
do we have? Yeah.
to find out about, is there a cost? The quantity, requirements, what do they need back from us in some fashion or form? I'm sure there may be other things, but certainly if we have that information, we have the information to give to the council so that the council could hopefully approve.
Mhm.
And it would also help inform who might get it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a suggestion, because of the time for the airport committee's meetings once a month. If the airport committee chooses to take this on, it could be a light blessing to any member of the committee that is interested in seeking information and sharing it with council. Maybe authorizing members of the committee to get more information and then communicating that information to council members or with the deputy mayor. So this way there isn't a, well, let's wait a month to see what happened, and then let's wait another month to make more action. So just a thought.
So, community members, Gloria and more, you guys wanna do that?
I
Do a little digging on that?
Yeah,
figure
I
out
could,
what's
I
on-
could contact Sophia and connect with her if you help me, give me a list of questions that you want to ask or.
Let's get the questions right now, because let's get the questions everyone wants to ask.
Okay.
How many?
Okay, how many?
Is there any cost to it?
Yeah.
Like what are the strings attached?
And what's the process?
Well, I was gonna say, like, what is the,
What do we have to do?
Process to
Get it.
distribute?
Is it enough just to say yes, or do we
I
have to
know.
do something else?
there's probably a process or a timeline. Is that,
Oh,
sorry.
Lewis, let's
What is
go.
the objective of this program? First and foremost, they're air purifiers to distribute, but why? Like, is there like a goal?
It's a good question. to
It's
ask.
a good
That's
question to
what
ask.
That's a good
question.
I
Who's behind
suspect
it?
that it's related, if she's directing it to the airport committee, I suspect it's because some folks are dealing with poor air quality in their home as a result of the particulates that are supposedly underneath the flight path and so forth.
Sure. But then we
But
would
we can
hope,
ask.
yeah, if you know the objective, then the next question would be, what data would we want to use to ensure this is some sort of equitable process? Like what data is available and could be provided? What are you looking to use?
Look at this.
For me,
I
is
feel like
like,
Joe's
On the
yeah.
thing, he's already got, excellent.
which is why I thought, how many are you talking about? Because that,
Who would
And
get
who
them?
would get them and how do we,
do you,
yeah,
Well, oh boy.
but you
That's
know
the
what though,
thing.
I think that there's a easier way. And it has to do with people under the flight path who, you know, they've got the 5 mile zone.
Let's go with questions today.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, let's just go.
Yeah.
We can't figure it.
That's kind
Yeah,
of,
what
What
is
is
the
their
process?
that
Yeah.
they have?
The equitable.
that was sort of my question
This
was,
is fun.
are they just looking
And
for
a little
volunteers?
background
Because
on
maybe they
Sophia
already
Erin,
have all
she
this
was
sorted
the
out.
mayor
And
of
they just need
Burien.
people
Um,
to do it.
And she
But I think
is,
this is sponsored.
She was the
Yeah.
chair of the airport committee.
yeah,
for
she was the chair of the
term, yeah.
airport committee and is, runs a nonprofit organization for nursing. So there's kind of a, if we seem not to be
Perfect.
questioning her
Where
reasons,
she showed up.
There's kind of some history with her.
Yeah, her time with the committee too, in the summer when there'd be like the smoke from the wildfires, there'd sort of tend to be a crossover of air purifier solutions for the community for a period of months of different things that I think she was working on or would come across in her
Yeah.
professional life.
Anything else? Because we are actually past time. Is there any other any public comments at all, Nate?
Dave is the only member of the public, well, other than
He's-
technically Jeff and.
He does not have his hands up. Good.
Not seeing it.
Okay, well. Louis,
Maybe. Does this board like get any, just going on like the question I had previously around data, like, do you guys get like regular data, whether it's like noise data or any data provided by the board? They're kind of.
You want data? You can't handle all the data we've got.
Well, if it is, it's great, 'cause I'm very curious
We-
how
we
you guys.
struggle with that all the time. We don't have all the data we need. How do you measure pollution in a given area? It changes all the time. It changes the time of year, it changes with the wind, it changes with flight path. It depends how close you are to which part of
But-
it. Really,
Louis,
you're right. We need that.
It does, I'm a data person. It does seem like there is some data, but it's not easily accessible, especially if you're not in the start. Or I don't find it very accessible. So once I was clicking on links that you sent and I found great data. And then I just couldn't find it again.
Some of the biggest delays we found, with health issues and so forth, and getting any treatment for people who have those issues, is the quality of the data or the fact that somebody always wants more data or different data or better data. And you're absolutely right, it's critical. And if we had that data in good form and could get it in an efficient way, we ought to have it and make any program we're working on better. But sometimes it's a roadblock, frankly, to getting stuff done. I'm a small business guy, so.
Let's not scare him. We're actually at time. And unless there is anything else of a burning nature, our next BAC meeting will be on Tuesday, April the 15th, 6 p.m. Nothing else. Yeah, tax day. Nothing else to come before this committee at this point. We stand at 7:07.
On the